The Germans and the Japanese, prior to World War II, were devastated in large part by World War I. I mean, the Japanese were, well, they were devastated too. I mean, they had an economy-driven economy, and World War I had, or export-driven economy, and World War I had wiped out that. And of course, Germany was devastated. You know, it was a war zone as a result of World War I. And two basically cults, death cults. You could call it a religion. I mean, it's not really quite the right word, but two cults rose in Germany and Japan as the result of, you know, the circumstances of the time, of the Great Depression, and which was happening worldwide, and the loss of those two countries. Germany was humiliated by World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, which John Maynard Keynes said if we were to sign it, and Roosevelt did, would lead to World War II. The Treaty of Versailles was extracting horrible punishments from Germany, requiring them to, at the same time that they were, you know, trying to rebuild their cities and deal with things like cholera epidemics and the great flu pandemic and whatnot, or the remnants of it. They were obligated to pay what in today's dollars would be hundreds of billions of dollars to the Allied powers who defeated them, and they just didn't have the money. And so in trying to pay those debts off, they devalued their currency so they could pay them off in cheaper Deutschmarks, and that led to an inflation where, you know, it took a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. And out of that, in both Germany and Japan, came these cult leaders, Adolf Hitler and Tojo, or Hirohito, you know, or both, really. Tojo is the general, Hirohito is the Japanese emperor. And the essential argument of these cults, the Nazism cult in Germany and the Japanese cult, I'm not sure what the name for it was, what the party was at that time, in Japan, the essential argument was existed on a couple of levels. But my point in sharing this with you is that I believe that this is exactly what Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are up to. Is they are trying to create these kind of cults in the United States. And the first part of it was a shared belief that we are a persecuted people, that the rest of the world is out to get us. In the case of Germany, it was, you know, look at how we've been wiped out. In the case of Japan, well, it was look at how we've been wiped out. Here in the United States, now we find that the middle class, which used to be about 65% of America, is now below 50% for the first time since the 1970s. I mean, it's below 50%. Prosperity has vanished. Now, at the level of people falling out of the middle class, a lot of that is happening largely to the white middle class, but it's also hitting the black middle class really, really badly. Proportionally, it's hitting the black middle class even worse than the white middle class. Just in absolute numbers, the white middle class was much larger. And so Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, and the other Republicans too, to an extent, but these two are really doing it, are trying to promote this cult of victimhood. We are the victims of others. Now, who are those others? In the case of the Japanese, it was the Chinese. Let's invade China. The rape of Nanking came out of that. In the case of the Germans, it was the Jews. Oh, it must be the Jews who are doing this to us. And, you know, they went off after the Jews. And in both cases, pretty much the entire nation signed up for the cult. And that's why they fought so ferociously in World War II. I mean, to the last man. A friend of mine was a 15-year-old soldier in Hitler's army. You know, in the last year of the war. I mean, that's what they were doing. They were drafting 15-year-olds. And it took the absolute defeat of those countries to break the hold of those cults. I see a death cult in ISIS in the Middle East. And what to do about that is a whole nother discussion, which the president presumably will be speaking about soon. But I'm also seeing the rise of death cults in the United States in the Trump and Cruz candidacy.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
And frankly, that scares the hell out of me. When I see death cults rising in other countries, death cults rising in our country, that is a world war scenario. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.